Let's define the term modernity. This actually comes from an old Latin word, like so many other words the English language do, called modernus. And that itself comes from the word modo, which can mean just now, which can mean only, presently. It has something to do with a focus on the present, usually. Now, this is curious because the word modernus, even though it defines modernity and makes us think of present and current things, this term has been used for so long. In fact, the early church used this exact same term. In fact, the early Christians saw themselves as a people of the future because they had this hope in a kingdom that went beyond whatever kingdom, whatever government or empire they found themselves under. The medievals, the Renaissance and Reformation thinkers, they often dealt with this term of modernist as well. It, of course, applied to the present, but they also thought of the future in a certain sense as well. They often saw themselves as moderns, but they saw themselves, the kind of the analogy that's often given, they saw themselves as being like dwarfs on the top of ancient giants. In other words, they had such intense respect for the past, such intense admiration for the great writers and the great works of the past, that they saw their works, no matter how marvelous they were, as being just kind of imitations, as being something like a dwarf on the shoulders of a giant compared to what had been done in the past. It really wasn't until what we call now more modern times, what I will define as roughly the 18th century or so we're talking about the 1700s and beyond, that the whole term of modernity began to be flipped around. Instead of it being seen as a focus on the present with this idea of a future hope that Christ was going to return, instead of it being a focus on the present where you looked back to the past for inspiration with great respect, it began to be changed quite a bit so that the future was seen as hopeful, not because of the promises of Christ. The future was seen as hopeful because it seemed as if there was no limit to what man could do, or especially what man could invent.